The school auditorium shimmered under golden lights, filled with laughter, cheers, and the faint nervousness that comes with endings and new beginnings. It was graduation day, the day everyone had been waiting for. The stage was decorated with ribbons, balloons, and banners that read, "Class of the Year." We did it. Parents were seated in neat rows, clapping and waving phones to capture every moment. Amid the sea of confident smiles and chatter, a quiet girl stood near the corner, clutching her certificate folder tightly against her chest. Her name was Emma Lewis, the new girl who had joined the school only 6 months ago. She was quiet, polite, and always alone. No one really noticed her, except the bullies who seemed to have made it their mission to humiliate her at every chance they got. Emma wore a simple white dress that she had saved up for. It wasn't designer or expensive like the other girls' outfits, but it was clean, elegant, and carried the kind of grace that didn't need a price tag. Her mother had helped her stitch it herself. "Keep your head high, sweetheart," her mother had said that morning. "Graduation is about who you've become, not who they think you are." Emma smiled faintly at the memory, unaware of how those words would echo in her mind just hours later. From across the room, Tiffany, the self-proclaimed queen of the senior class, noticed Emma standing alone. Tiffany was the kind of girl who thrived on attention, tall, beautiful, dressed in a glittering red gown. Her lips painted a bold shade of arrogance. Her two shadows, Macy and Brooke, stood beside her, laughing at every snide comment she made. "Look at her," Tiffany whispered, smirking. "She actually showed up wearing that curtain." Macy giggled. "Yeah, and she's standing there like she's waiting for someone to talk to her. So pathetic." Tiffany's eyes narrowed. "Let's make her memorable. After all, it's her last day here." As Emma stood quietly, adjusting her dress and watching other students pose for photos, Tiffany strutted over, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. "Oh, little Miss Nobody showed up after all," she said, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. Emma turned slowly, forcing a polite smile. "Hi, Tiffany." Tiffany tilted her head. "Wow, you really think the dress is graduation material? Did your grandma make it?" Laughter erupted from the small crowd that had gathered. Emma's face flushed pink. "It's my mom helped me." "Of course she did," Tiffany interrupted, smirking. "Looks like she ran out of fabric." Brooke stepped forward, circling Emma like a predator. "You know what, Tiff? This dress might actually look cute if it wasn't so dull." Macy laughed cruelly. "Yeah, maybe we should help her fix it." Emma stepped back, her heartbeat quickening. "Please don't." She started, but before she could finish, Tiffany reached forward and grabbed the hem of her dress. In one swift, vicious tug, the sound of tearing fabric echoed through the auditorium. "Rip!" The crowd gasped as Emma stumbled back, clutching the torn side of her dress in horror. "Oops," Tiffany said with fake innocence. "Wes, I was right. Cheap fabric." Laughter exploded around them. Cameras flashed. Some students recorded on their phones. Emma's cheeks burned as humiliation wrapped around her like fire. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them away, refusing to let them fall. She stood frozen, gripping the fabric tightly to cover herself, while Tiffany, Macy, and Brooke strutted away, satisfied with their cruelty. Teachers nearby were too busy organizing the ceremony to notice what had happened. To everyone else, it was just another joke. But for Emma, it was a moment she would never forget. She ran into the bathroom, locking herself in one of the stalls. Her hands trembled as she looked at the torn dress in the mirror. Her mother's words echoed again. "Keep your head high." But how could she? She had been humiliated in front of everyone on what was supposed to be her happiest day. She sank to the floor, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. Then something inside her shifted. Something deep, buried under months of quiet endurance. A flicker of strength, of anger, of pride that refused to die. She took a deep breath and whispered to herself, "No more." She wiped her tears and looked into the mirror again. Her eyes no longer looked broken. They looked sharp, cold, and determined. "You wanted to see a weak girl," she whispered to her reflection. "Let's see how you handle the truth." She straightened the torn fabric as best as she could and stepped out of the stall. The whispers outside were getting louder. The bullies had told everyone what they did, and laughter spread like wildfire. But Emma didn't hide anymore. She walked back into the auditorium, head high, her movements calm, but her eyes blazing. She wasn't there to be a victim anymore. She was there to reclaim her moment. As the graduation ceremony continued, the principal called names one by one. Students walked across the stage, smiling proudly as they received their diplomas. Emma waited for her turn, standing at the back, ignored and whispered about. Tiffany and her friends sat near the front, giggling and taking selfies. When Emma's name was called, she stepped onto the stage. The audience murmured as they noticed her torn dress. But she didn't flinch. She accepted her diploma, shook hands with the principal, and turned to face the audience with a steady gaze. That quiet defiance made even Tiffany pause for a second. After the ceremony, the crowd moved toward the gym for the graduation party. Music boomed through the speakers and laughter filled the air again. Emma sat quietly near the exit, planning to leave early, but fate wasn't done yet. Tiffany spotted her again and grinned. "Still here," she sneered, walking toward her with Macy and Brooke. "You've got guts, I'll give you that." Brooke smirked. "Maybe she's waiting for her boyfriend." "Oh wait, she doesn't have one." They laughed again. Emma stood up slowly, her eyes locked on them. "You've had your fun," she said calmly. "Now it's over." Tiffany raised an eyebrow. "Over? Oh honey, it's just starting." Tiffany reached forward again, pretending to grab her shoulder. But this time, Emma's hand shot up, gripping Tiffany's wrist midair. The speed stunned everyone nearby. Tiffany's smug expression faded as she tried to pull back, but Emma's grip tightened. "Let go," Tiffany hissed. Emma's eyes narrowed. "You tore my dress in front of everyone," she said quietly. "Now it's time you understand what respect feels like." With a sudden twist, she redirected Tiffany's hand and stepped aside. A perfect martial arts move that sent Tiffany stumbling forward, losing balance. Gasps filled the room. Tiffany looked up, shocked. "What the?" Brooke stepped forward angrily. "You think you can fight us?" she spat. Macy pushed Emma's shoulder roughly. "You're dead, freak." But the moment Macy's hand touched her, Emma moved. A swift, precise kick that landed cleanly on Macy's arm, making her yelp and fall back. The music stopped, heads turned. The laughter vanished, replaced by stunned silence. Brooke lunged forward, but Emma sidestepped again, her legs sweeping across in a fluid motion that made Brooke crash to the floor, groaning. Tiffany froze, her eyes wide. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. The quiet girl, the nobody, had just taken down her two best friends like it was nothing. Emma looked at Tiffany, her voice calm but sharp as steel. "Do you want to continue?" Tiffany's lips trembled, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. "You're crazy!" she shouted, charging forward. Emma's body moved with perfect control, one smooth spin, a roundhouse kick slicing through the air, stopping just inches from Tiffany's face. The wind from the kick brushed against her cheek, and Tiffany froze in terror. Emma didn't touch her. She didn't have to. The message was clear. Tiffany stumbled backward, falling to her knees, her arrogance shattered. Please," she whispered, trembling. "I'm sorry." The crowd around them was silent. Phones that once recorded her humiliation were now recording her victory. Emma looked around slowly, her expression unreadable. "You laughed when I was torn apart," she said softly. "Now you see what happens when kindness is mistaken for weakness." She turned and walked away, her head held high, leaving Tiffany kneeling on the floor in shock. Students moved aside as she passed, their faces a mix of awe and guilt. The same people who once laughed at her now watched in respect, and maybe a little fear. As Emma stepped outside, the evening air hit her face. She breathed deeply, feeling the weight lift off her shoulders. She wasn't the same girl who had walked into that auditorium. She was stronger, freer, unshakable. Her phone buzzed, a message from her mother. "Proud of you, sweetheart. Did everything go okay?" Emma smiled faintly, typing back, "Better than okay, Mom. I finally stood up." She looked up at the stars above and whispered, "Thank you." But deep down, she knew this wasn't the end. Tiffany's pride wouldn't allow her to let this go easily, and Emma wasn't done either. Because some lessons still needed to be taught. Graduation might have been an ending for everyone else, but for Emma, it was just the beginning of a new story. One where she would never bow her head again.